Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the live stream talking about America in Chaos. It is 8:36 my time, and that means that it's a different time your time if you don't live in the same time zone as me. So there's some super useful information for you. Now, I have been very busy doing a lot of heavy research. So I'd like to share with you guys what I've been up to. You can take a look. So let's take a look at my heavy research I've been up to. So here you can see I've got a bunch of slingers, which are of course halflings, right? These are pretty basic. 3 range. About to switch over to the other world. And I don't know. Go and search around. Now these sorcery nodes, this one has a djinn, whatever. This has some phantom beasts, which I could probably take, but only 5 is not really enough. Then again, I've got node mastery, which should help. So this is a really cool game. I know I talk about this a lot. What game is this? Hugo Chavez. It's called Master of Magic. It's a classic game. I've played this thing for years, ever since it was brand new. And it's basically imagine Civilization 2, except instead of like being the, president of Germany or whatever, you're a wizard. And there's 2 different worlds instead of 1. And you interact with other wizards, and you've got spells from different realms like chaos and nature and death and whatnot. And it's just super fun. So you've got this overland aspect of it, and then you've also got like a combat aspect of it. So it's turn-based. And then there's tons of spells, so I'll show you just really quickly. Here's some angels. I would lose this battle, but I'll go into it just for you. So if I go in here, it'll take me to a battle screen. I have it set on a faster mode. That's why these angels just flew super quick. So I've got these ranged slingers, which are pretty weak, to be honest with you. Is this an ad? Yes, please transport yourself back 17 years ago and purchase a MS-DOS game. So anyway, pretty cool stuff. Can we cut the game and get to the point? Sorry. Gosh. Jeez, sorry, everybody. So here is the point then. The point is this. I've recently become aware of some people talking trash about protesters and calling them rioters and all these things. And I want to kind of set the record straight. Okay? So let's take a look. Not that. This. So apparently in Hong Kong, people have been using pipe bombs, and when one of these protesters hit a police officer with a metal pipe and then was shot, that's reported as Hong Kong protester shot by police officer. And when these protesters set someone on fire, that's just vaguely described as another set on fire, which actually almost sounds like the police set someone on fire. But that's good that we're describing it that way, because these are pro-democracy protesters, as we'll soon find out. Now, another thing to note is that WeChat and Weibo were apparently censoring content related to the protests, which is typical, And we can see here, yes, it's pro-democracy. It's the pro-democracy movement. They're very peaceful. They entered some government buildings, but really the point of that was to promote democracy, okay? So we need to downplay when they do violence. I mean, come on, guys. They didn't really try to kill anybody or actually kill someone by stoning them to death on the streets. That didn't happen, okay? Some guy was just set on fire. It just happened to him. And they didn't hit the police officers with a metal pipe that just vanished. They were just shot. And so we know that they're pro-democracy. We know that they're peaceful. We know that they're protesters. And what should be done with the leaders of this peaceful movement? Well, I think that they should be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, that's clearly what should be. What? Hang on a second, guys. Wait a second. Oh, it's happening in the United States of America? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hang on a second, guys. Forget everything I just said. It turns out that actually I was reading the wrong stuff. So let's start over again, shall we? Protesters have been found with pipe bombs. And one of them, who was not attacking any police officers, was shot. So maybe we can describe that as something like, let's take a look here. She was an insurrectionist, taking part in an insurrection. Right? Ah, so now you dead, laughing. Here's her being shot. And there are other posts on here calling her some pretty serious names. Which, I mean, after all, she was in a government building. Which is pretty bad, right? And as far as censorship by media, we need that. We need that to happen. In fact, let's censor our president. Okay? Just get rid of his communications. Communications that, by the way, he is not allowed to block other people from, because he's using this platform as an official outlet of government information. But if that outlet decides that he shouldn't have that access, then they can just remove it. But that's not censorship, guys, because, he could just make a Gab account. And, by the way, these people are terrorists, according to CNN. Domestic terrorists. And what should happen to the leader of these terrorists? Nobel Peace Prize? Well, no. He's committed treason. He's broken any number of laws and norms, and now he's guilty of treason, apparently. So, all that stuff I said in the beginning about peaceful protesters and pro-democracy, I'm sorry, I made a big mistake. That's when we're talking about China. When we're talking about the United States, anything that people do is reversed. So pro-democracy, peaceful protesters, those are terrorists that need to be dealt with. In China, if you hit a police officer with a pipe and then you get shot, that's because China's authoritarian. They're so strict, they're evil. But if you don't hit a police officer and then you get shot in the United States at point blank when you're totally unarmed, right? Then it's your fault for, leading an insurrection. As you can see, this entire thing is very, very frustrating. My country is in chaos. The United States is entering into potentially a new phase that's very, very chaotic and dangerous. On the ground here, I've been talking to people for quite a long time and telling them that and telling them that, sorry, my cat is screaming, and telling them that if Trump loses the election, the next problem is going to be what he does about that. And now we're seeing some of that problem. And as soon as he started talking about how it was a fraud, then I became more worried. I was worried something like this might happen. And now that something like this is happening, I'm worried about a much more dangerous situation that's less likely, which is that he somehow is able to retain his presidency. Then this country will really fall apart. But it should be as obvious as ever to people that this situation, hang on, sorry. It should be as obvious as ever to people that this situation is giving a sense of vindication to a lot of Chinese people who have been very frustrated by the Western covering of Hong Kong. And there's a little bit more than just the topical comparison here. So we need to take a look at this concept of why these people are protesting. Because the number one thing that people will say against this is, yeah, but the people in Hong Kong, they're protesting for democracy. That's what they are. They're pro-democracy. And these are just right-wing lunatics. Well, that may be the case that they're right-wing. I don't think that they're lunatics. I don't think that the Hong Kong protesters are lunatics. But I don't think that either of them are especially more pro-democracy than the other. In China, there's a lot of people. And democracy is direct democracy, or suffrage, is one form of expression of the people's will. Unfortunately for those people who support the Hong Kong insurrectionists, the people's will needs to be a majority of the people, not just some people in one place, in a pocket. Okay? So while they were fighting for many things, one of those things being suffrage, that doesn't make them representative of the will of the people, because the will of the people had already established a government, and it's one that this small group of people was fighting against. Meanwhile, the right wing here in the, over in the United States, forgot where I was, they are protesting because they think that there was fraud when it comes to the election. Now think about what that means. That means that what they're saying is they want the correct, real ballots to be counted. They want the votes to be counted accurately and correctly. That means what they're saying is they want a proper democracy. And what they're saying is that what we have now isn't that. In other words, they're pro-democracy. The people who are breaking into the nation's capital and being shot are pro-democracy protesters. I hope you can understand that. The people that are breaking into the government buildings in the United States, in Washington, D.C., are exactly as pro-democracy protesters as the Hong Kong pro-democracy protesters were. Okay? So that's why these parallels are so easy to draw. So how does this work then? Because everybody, I'm sure, all my lovely disagreeers out there, will surely find some way to make the Hong Kong protesters much more pro-democracy and therefore something. But here's the real issue, okay? This is why we have something called laws. Because what I call pro-democracy and what you call pro-democracy can be very, very different. So, the idea... You in your pajamas? No, come on. That's my robe. The idea that we're all going to agree on what is pro-democracy and that pro-democracy is necessarily good, etc., is crazy. So a long time ago, a bunch of people figured out, hey, what if we have something called a law? So it doesn't matter if you consider yourself pro-democracy, or if CNN calls you that, or if Nathan Rich calls you that. Doesn't matter. You're not allowed to break into federal buildings. You're not allowed to commit violence against the state. Okay? That's just a law. So if we care about those laws and the rule of law, then we can, once again, turn towards these protesters in America and say, hey, you can believe what you want, but you're not allowed to commit physical violence against the state, to threaten the state with force or with violence. You're not allowed to do X, Y, and Z things. Even if you think you're pro-democracy, whatever, it doesn't matter why, you're just not allowed to do that. It's against the law. But if we do that, then should not we look at the Hong Kong protesters of last year and apply the same standard to them? The reason it's so easy not to do that if you're a certain kind of American is because what you think they're fighting for is so close to what you believe is good and right. And that, my friends, is totally irrelevant. Because if you only go off of what you think is good and right and not the laws of the lands, especially when it comes to other countries, then you're dangerously close to becoming an imperialist, a global fascist, and someone who's pressing for the oppression of other peoples based on what you think is right. Okay? Does that make sense? So, in short, your opinion on what should or shouldn't be illegal in China is mostly irrelevant, just as their opinion, Chinese people's opinion, on what should and shouldn't be illegal in the United States is mostly irrelevant. Now, you're going to see a lot of Chinese people on the internet saying, you know, how gleeful they are, how happy they are, or how, you know, vindicated they feel that this is happening. And I don't, you know, I understand it. I don't like it because I love America and I don't want this to be happening. But I get why it's happening. I get why it's happening to them, that they feel this way, is what I mean. They feel this way because they have sat here and dealt with the Western media machine advocating for this exact kind of violence all throughout, you know, the south part of their country for years, really, most intensely last year. This is why they do that. And if they're happy about it, fine, we don't have to react to that. Okay? They know deep down that none of this stuff is good. They just have this short-term feeling of, good, now America's getting, you know, a taste of its own medicine. But for the ones that I've spoken to, that doesn't represent a long-term wish that they want America to have something bad happen to it. They mostly just want America to leave them alone. I know this is really bizarre, but that's basically what they want, the ones that I've talked to. So, again, if I can say that both of these two protest bodies are pro-democratic, then you really have to struggle to explain to me why one of them is great and they're peaceful and their Wikipedia article makes them look like a bunch of saints who were beat up by big bad state, and the other one are a bunch of terrorists who should be banned, and the president of the United States should be censored as this entire thing is quashed by corporations. It's bizarre that I even have to say that, but you would have to really be able to explain that to me, and I haven't heard any good argument for that yet. Now, as usual, I don't personally really care what the United States does as far as if it wants to be this kind of country or not. Just as I don't really care what kind of country China wants to be. But I do care if that kind of country is the kind that goes out internationally to pick fights with other countries, and if it's the type of place that says one thing and does another. Those are annoying to me. Okay? If we want to have free speech, then let's have it. If we don't, then let's not say that we do have it, etc. Anyway, so that's the first thing I wanted to talk about is it is very clear to me, this double standard, and it's also very clear that few people will recognize this. And this is one of the reasons I do what I do. So I want to show you literally just like a 5-second clip. Don't worry, everybody. And I will also repeat what this dude says in case you can't hear it. This is, I've been watching videos and everything for a while when I wasn't playing Master of Magic. And this is not even a particularly strong or interesting segment, but this is just one example of the type of thing that I see in Western reporting that drives me up the walls. Okay, let's go to desktop left. Usually this is too low, so I'm going to turn it way up, and then I have to look at the audio gauge to make sure people can hear it. Here we go. Ready? This is Trump. This is him telling people, oh, hey, you know, let's go home, please. Don't be violent, etc. This is very, very quick, okay? Pay attention.
So go home. We love you. You're very special.
The chamber has emptied, democracy put on hold. Outside they were scaling the ramparts, the mob for the moment in charge, believing they have the right to overthrow the will of the people. Tonight, the shining city on the hill, as America likes to describe itself, feels as though the light of democracy is flickering dangerously.
Okay. Did you catch what the narrator said? It's just very, very interesting to me. This one part. Here it is. Oops, sorry. Way too far. Here we go.
Democracy put on hold. Outside they were scaling the ramparts, the mob for the moment in charge, believing they have the right to overthrow the will of the people.
The mob outside, believing that they have the right to overthrow the will of the people. You guys heard that, right? What this guy's saying, this is the BBC. What he's saying is, well, these people outside, they, for some reason, feel like they have the right to overthrow the will of the people. What does he mean by that? What he means is the will of the people is their vote, and that these people, for some reason, feel that they have the right to overthrow that, which, first of all, is not even what they're saying. Okay, that's not what the right wing, that's not what these protesters are saying. They're not saying, oh, we know we lost, but we want to change that. So that's already completely BS. But here's the most interesting thing. The way he says that, the will of the people. Now, in China, there was a very prominent situation back in the early 20th century. Let's just keep it a bit vague because it's very long, called the Republic of China. And there was no real unification of the will of the people until during a civil war, the Communist Party of China ultimately ended up winning. Not everybody, not at all everybody, but the majority of the support of the people in China. That is the will of the people. Okay, you have the will of the people. What do you do with this will? Well, let's create a government. Should it be a right-wing nationalist government like the one in the ROC that we've got? Or should it be something different? Well, it should be something different. Okay, well, will that different thing have universal suffrage? No, it won't. Okay, well, fine. Here's what we've got, right? And that's called the People's Republic of China. That is a reflection of the people's will. Doesn't mean that it's an active democratic state in the way that Americans say it, but it is a model of manifestation of the will of the Chinese people. And again, isn't it interesting that in this aspect, the British narrator has no problem identifying the issue, which is that these people think that they are more important than the will of the entire country. And yet, when they talk about Hong Kong, it's the total opposite. It's just, shouldn't this very small group of people be allowed to overthrow the entire government? Shouldn't they be allowed to overthrow the will of the people? And I just want you guys to notice that. Drives me nuts. Just little things that they say like that where I go, yeah, but that's the exact reason that supporting anti-government regimes in other countries is against what you claim to be standing for. Anyway, so in the United States, the will of the people originally set up a different kind of government, and that government works differently than the government in China, but it also is not pure democracy. It's got voting, it's got suffrage on some level, but it doesn't do much with referendums, and the popular vote is not especially important, at least in the way that a quote-unquote pure democracy would be. But it's definitely a lot closer in the way that we view things now. However, that leaves some room open, and it leads to situations where we have a lot of conflict. For example, we say that there's free speech, and yet we collectively seem to do everything we can to crush down certain kinds of speech. So we sort of allow it, but also attack it at the same time. And a lot of this weird sort of schizophrenic activity, again, doesn't make it wrong. I'm just saying that it has its own set of drawbacks. So these people protesting have approximately as much right to overthrow the government as the people who are protesting in Hong Kong. I just want you to be aware of that. This is exactly how I see it. Again, it doesn't mean that the protesters and rioters in Hong Kong are 100% wrong. And it doesn't mean that the right-wingers in America are 100% wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It means that the media, the way that these things are covered, is very biased against China. Are you sure the ROC was right-wing? Yes. I mean, other than parts of it being allied and or run by the fascist Japanese government, and parts of it being allied with literally the Nazi government. Yes. Long story short, yes. There's many reasons, but yes. So all this in mind, I don't want to go too long tonight. But what should America do to fix itself? Look, I'm aware that a lot of my subscribers have, emotions that are pent up. They're sick of seeing how misguided or poorly China's reported on. And that's fair enough. But a lot of people think that I make videos about China, and honestly, I normally don't. Normally, when I make a video, if it happens to have to do with China, it's actually... Oh my God, somebody said ROC equals Republic of Korea. No, the ROC is not the Republic of Korea. The ROC is the old government of China that used to be in charge of China, and now it's not. Long story short. What was I saying? So, a lot of people who subscribe are sick of this anti-China narrative that's been very, very strong in the last few years, and I understand that. But when I'm making videos that have to do with China, usually they're actually about my own culture. This is why I don't really consider myself someone who defends China, or like these people who have no intellectual competence call me things like he's a puppet for China. Yeah, I don't really care that much about the politics in China. I mostly talk, if you actually think about what I'm saying, I mostly talk about the media in the United States and how dishonest it is when it talks about things that I like, such as China. When they start making endless articles attacking Linux or Solaris or Thailand or Master of Magic, then you will see me making videos defending those things too. But it's not because I'm a Master of Magic puppet. It's because I don't enjoy my own culture recklessly abandoning all standards of competence and quality control to say stupid shit about things that they either don't understand or intentionally are misleading about, especially when those things have actual risks in the real world. Okay? So, that's my view on that. Free California. Now, what should America do to fix itself? I love the United States, even though I haven't been there in quite a while now. Kind of miss it. Did Nathan just say Linux? Yes, he did. I have Linux tattooed on my arm. I am exceptionally well versed in Linux, and I care about Linux. So what should America do to fix itself? I love America. I haven't been there in a while. I want it to do better. I want it to do well. I don't like that this is happening, even if some of my subscribers have a temporary sense of relief or validation in seeing this happen. I don't support any long-term America should be falling apart. No, I want it to do amazing. I really do. So what can we do to fix it long-term? In the short term, there's not a lot that is realistic. There's not a lot of things that I can recommend that would work. And in the long term, it's unfortunately mostly wishful thinking. But I want to explain to you how I see this so that you can at least hear from me what I think when I say I'm a leftist. I am on the left. What does that mean? So, the United States has a lot of problems, including infrastructure, including this very serious issue of net neutrality by way of these platforms that are also, reaping the benefits of from every side. They have monopolies. They have rights and control over pieces of the government, and it's just this very big mess that we have in the United States right now, where you literally have corporations censoring the government, which is absolutely bizarre to me. Again, doesn't mean it's wrong, okay? Try to stick with me. It just means it's a difficulty and it's a challenge, and it's something that's non-optimal. I'm sure we can all agree. So when I call people right-wing, I'm usually thinking about, in this case, we're talking about Trumpers. They're right-wing inside of America. But from my point of view, almost everyone in America is actually right-wing in the from the perspective of the entire world. Because these days, if you talk to a leftist or a progressive person, they seem to be all totally fine with the idea of continuing the ongoing genocide of Muslims that's happening in the Middle East, carried out by the United States and its allies. Hundreds of thousands of citizens, civilians, I'm not talking about soldiers, I'm talking about civilians, have been murdered in this ongoing multi-decade slaughter. Okay? And the most I've ever gotten from anybody, even on the left, when I bring this up is, Well, I don't like that either. Like, that's also not good. But China, but China, but China. That's one reason. Another reason is America being spread out all over the globe with something like 80 countries and 800 or so military bases, whatever it's at now. Multiple wars at any given time, as far back as I can remember. Multiple very aggressive policies, including in South China Sea. But you know what? Forget about China. If it's easier for you to understand without the emotionality that you've brought to this video, expecting that I only care about China because it's all secretly some people behind me telling me everything to say and it must be about China. Forget China. The United States and the Middle East. I'm not happy about that. I haven't been happy about that since I was like 9 and, what was it, Desert Storm began. Even as a child, I remember thinking, wait, but what did they do to us again? And to this day, nobody's ever been able to answer that. So there's many other reasons. And one of those reasons is that we like to try to cause other countries to become more like us. And we're willing to go beyond means that I believe are acceptable to do so. I don't think that it's okay for the United States to false flag Vietnam and invade them in one of the most disgusting wars, if you even want to call it that, of the 20th century. I don't think that's okay. I don't think it's okay to have these NGOs that are being run by the U.S. government fooling, okay, forget about Chinese people, fooling American citizens into thinking that these are not political bodies. So you're paying for them, but you don't know that they're not just out there handing out books and food to children who need it. They're trying intentionally to train and begin insurrections in other countries. Okay? I don't like that. Just having to do with America. I don't like the way that the government is doing that to its own citizens. That's me as an American, something I don't enjoy. If you support those things, then you're generally in line with the idea that whatever culture it is, maybe it's American culture to you, maybe it's white culture, maybe it's pseudo-European, whatever you consider your part of America to be, you're saying that that culture is not only correct, which is already, that's a real dangerous line of thinking there, but it's so correct that it's so much further ahead of everybody else that they're sinning. They are sinning by not adopting it. The longer that other countries aren't democratic in our way, the longer that they're not capitalist in our way, etc., the worse off they are, and the more we should be trying to force them to be so. Okay? Now, I'm aware that whenever I say the word right wing or left wing, everybody wants to start a 45-book long debate about if it's actually right wing or not. So again, boy, get out of here. Sorry, my cat's trying to jump on me. The key point here is not if it's left wing or right wing. I understand that those are all slurs now. Hey, can you get him out of here? I'm sorry, this boy. Sorry, my boy's desperate to get on me. Look, it doesn't matter if it's left or right. Okay, yes, I'm calling it that way. That's by my own description. And the definition there is essentially that the right wing in this context generally will believe in things that amount to enforced inequality. And again, doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong all the time. Whereas the left, as I'm calling it, generally will be pushing for equality, enforced or otherwise. So, forget about left and right. I guess maybe I shouldn't even bring it up. The point is, when I say that I consider myself left and that I'm part of the real left and that this fake left exists in the world today, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who, if the Vietnam War were happening today, wouldn't even go protest against it because they'd be saying, yeah, those communists, they need to be put down because you know what? Communists aren't nice to their citizens, or they have human rights abuses, or I saw on YouTube X, Y, and Z. So the war should just go on, right? If you were to go back in time to the days of the Vietnam War and you wouldn't be protesting against them, I'm sorry, but in my mind, you are on the right. And that, again, doesn't mean you're a bad, wrong person. It just means that I disagree with you, and I think you're wrong. So, what the hell can we do about all this? Well, theoretically, if we were a country that had left-wing people in it, like we used to, what might we be fighting for? Well, we might be fighting to... Sorry, my cat is really desperate to get on me. Boy, you're such a ham. And I'm just realizing my monitor has been in the shot the entire time. Awesome. Sorry, let me move the monitor. So this fat boy is trying desperately to blob on me. I think he wants me to show you guys because he's such a ham. Clean your eyes, boy. You got anything to say to these people? No good? Not interested? Alright, get out of here, boy. Oh, it's very heavy. Jesus. I don't remember what the hell I was saying, other than my monitor is in the shot. Wow. Okay. Real professional over here. Oh, so this is what I would assume that people would be fighting for if they were leftists in America. And it's very hard to find these people for some reason. Your cat is protesting for hugs. Well, I expect that we would be protesting or at least pushing to slow down on the violent expansionism that the United States has been partaking in for a few decades now. I assume that we would try to figure out a way that we could potentially have an international body that's responsible, that has appropriate representation of the countries, and each country has appropriate representation from it. Some way that I don't want to get into the details of because I'm not a politician and it's irrelevant. But let's just hypothetically say that we had some body that actually could take actions where necessary, be it trade restrictions, something that I guess had a similar membership as the UN, some way of resolving things that didn't demand that individual countries step in. Okay, let's just say that that were possible. Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to scale back some of the United States spending on the military budget? Now, I know this is the type of topic that a billion people have talked about before, and I'm sure it's all very uncool and unpopular and uninteresting and whatever. But I don't care. One of the nice things about me is that I don't really care about any of that stuff, so I'm just going to talk about it anyway, because that's what I want to talk about. So let's take a look at this interesting little article. Here's what we could have if we slashed the military budget. I'm sure you guys are aware that the United States spends as much money as about 145 other countries combined on military. So we can do things like, what's the fake left he's talking about? The fake left I'm talking about are the people who appear to be left in most things, and yet for some reason have no qualms with America going to other countries to put them in their place and try to force them to be how America wants them to be. You know, fascism. So here's the things that we could have if we slashed the military budget, according to Jacob and Mag. Medicare for all, and or free college, food assistance, Planned Parenthood assistance, huge dent apparently in American fossil fuel emissions, and upgraded infrastructure, which is one that I'm really interested in as well. I'm not going to get into this entire article and break it down for everybody, but just to give you some idea that, like, we're spending so much money on trying to be the world's police, something that is inherently non-leftist, by the way. At least the way I'm defining them. We're spending so much money doing that we internally as Americans are suffering the consequences of that. We are suffering from infrastructure issues. One of the main things that I notice, by the way, when I do go back to the United States is how horrible some of the roads are there. You go to Inglewood in LA. I used to go down there to the DMV over there on my motorcycle, and it's like you can't even barely drive. There's potholes and these huge weird bumps, and everything's dirty. There's spikes everywhere, nails and everything. It's really kind of falling apart, and nobody wants to do anything about it. Plus, we don't have the money to do so. And when I saw this article, I kind of was reminded of the concept of, like, God, remember when people in America used to fight for actual stuff? Not just like, you know, whether or not we're allowed to say this or that, or even causes that I may agree with, you know, things like police brutality and everything. But at some point, there's other things more important than police brutality when you're getting to the brink of war, right? If you don't have a police and you don't have people that could even be brutalized because you've been nuked by other countries, because you continue to push your way into these countries and create these ongoing eternal wars, in some ways, to me, that's more important to deal with. Doesn't mean you can't deal with both, but if it's at least as important, then surely we can sometimes, just sometimes, talk about something other than the most popular thing on Twitter. Maybe we can talk about the super boring stuff like, hey, remember when the United States had good roads? What if we made a little bit less military bases this year? Oh, and here's the crazy thing about this article. This article is not talking about cutting all of the money. It's not what it's talking about. This article is talking about cutting the spending down to, for example, what it was in the 1990s. That's it, right? As an American, did you feel much less safe in the 1990s? So, yes, I don't have any real, amazing, wonderful plans for all this, but I just wanted to share with you guys what type of thing am I thinking of when I'm complaining about the United States going against classic Americanism when it comes to being, you know, anti-protectionist and whatnot, having a free open market. What am I talking about when I say that, hey, if you're going to say that, then you should probably do it? What am I talking about when I say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have organizations like the NED intentionally trying to start insurrections? Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe instead of just not doing that, we should take the money that we were spending on that and spend it on something for Americans. Okay? So I hope you can understand that though I talk about China a lot, that's because I live here and I love it here and it's just a cool place. But if America were doing this with other places that I were knowledgeable about and loved and lived in, etc., I would be talking about those places. So when I say, Nathan, can you learn Chinese? Well, I am going to classes every single week. So hopefully it will be coming along pretty soon here. So I hope you guys can understand what I'm trying to say here, which is that, look, you don't have to agree with every solution. But when I say that there's the fake left, what I'm talking about is there is the left that exists now that from an international perspective, okay, forget about domestic policies. From an international perspective, they seem to have no problem at all. In fact, they have no problem at all with, in fact, they encourage what is essentially global imperialism in modern form. To me, that's not left wing. If you were to go back into the go-to example of Nazi Germany, and you were to say, well, I don't support all this crazy stuff we're doing with the Jews, but I do support the German right to take over Poland, then I would say, well, maybe locally you could in some way be considered a left-wing person. But globally speaking, you just literally are the same as the Nazis. There's not much difference in effect. So that's what I'm saying. Sorry, guys. I'm really worked up today. I didn't even want to do a stream today. I haven't really been doing videos or anything like that recently. I've been doing that research that I showed you. But everything is just going so crazy in America, and the double standard is so over the top that I just had to say something. And let me see. Sorry, guys. Let me see about super chats. Wow. Tangent Tang. Thank you very much. Cedric, thank you. Precious Jules, you are amazing too. And Diodric Online. Yo, it's so cool to finally catch you live. Too bad it's with this video. I assume that means that though you love this video as far as the quality, you're upset about the subject matter, not that you're disappointed with the video. So thank you for that. And Maxi says, keep it up. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. How's your health now, Nathan? I'll give you guys an update on my health very quick. Don't worry. Don't complain. It's going to be very, very short. I promise. A while ago, I got a lot of opinions by various doctors, and they tended to say either that I needed surgery right then and there, or that I should wait at least 3 months to check again to see if the growth of the tumor was any indication of the timetables that I had to work with as far as surgery goes. 3 months, long story short, 3 months from the first check will be next week. So I will be getting my second follow-up scan in about a week. So I'll know more then. My knee is in pain generally, and I'm nervous. Nathan, do you think there is a middle ground between left and right, or that's even possible? It has to be either side. No. I mean, this whole left and right thing, look, I used to never say it because it's problematic. But the point is this, really. There's no middle to them because they're not even well defined enough to really exist. I think just that it's more about, it's a much deeper conversation for me, I think. But generally speaking, the reason that I use these terms is because I don't like people who say that they're one thing and then they stand up for everything against that when it comes to things that could cause war, etc. If you're going to be a neocon, then just be a neocon. Okay? Just be one. If you're going to be a Christian supremacist who thinks the world should all be part of America, I disagree. But at least if you say that, I respect you more than somebody who pretends to be some kind of leftist and then also supports those views. CNN and other mainstream American media reported that Hong Kong's people who rushed into the Legislative Council were democracy fighters, and those who rushed into the U.S. Congress were thugs. This is a slap in the face. I agree. And if you didn't see the first part of this video, I will release it eventually with some translation. But and if you are on my Patreon and Subscribestar, then you will have access to the full stream forever. But you're right. Yes, there's a lot of double, you know, double standards going on here, and it's really annoying. We are with you, brother. Thank you. Trump is guilty. Okay, well. Oh, here we go. Beijing minus 20 degrees Celsius. LOL. Yeah, very funny. That's super funny for you. It's not so funny for me. God, I went out today, went out yesterday, and it was just horrible. Will you ever do some laid-back game streams? A brick to the knee. Well, first of all, a brick to the knee. I actually know somebody who got a brick to the knee, and it broke his leg, and he had to drive himself to the hospital. It was not very fun for that guy. So not cool if that was you. And second of all, did you notice when I started this stream, I said, oh, check out this video game, etc. And then I immediately got a bunch of people yelling like, shut up with this stupid game stuff and get onto the politics. Work. But to answer more honestly, I would love to do kind of a longer, you know, more chill stream. But I just haven't really been feeling it recently. I didn't even want it to do this, to be honest with you, but I just am so annoyed by what's going on. The cashew nuts are still there. Steven, are you watching my health? Seoul. Andrew, are you in Korea? How's everything going over there? You guys, I don't know. I haven't checked in with Korea. Are you guys locked down? Hamster. Thank you for the Hong Kong $8. Appreciate it. Nathan, have you been to Hong Kong? Yes. And I was just about to say, because I just got $12 Hong Kong by Hamster over here. I was just going to say, I believe the last time I went to Hong Kong, I remember it was $12 for a water in Starbucks. So I think Hamster got me 3/4 of a water there. Appreciate it. Do game streams, please. Megafan 11. I believe that is that Mega Man? You can't be that old. But game streams. Well, listen. I may have the face of an angel and the body of a 19-year-old, but my soul is about 1,000 years old. So my game streaming will be 1994 DOS games. Maybe like a Mortal Kombat 11 game every now and again. But I'll just be complaining about how it's too newfangled and complicated compared to the old way. Gordon B. Better not be no Gordon Chain going on. #1 fan. Appreciate it. $10. Please do a game live stream. Just read that. Playing game, chatting, everything is cool. What is that rave head behind you? Oh, that's a thing I got on Taobao. Just a cool map with like a flashy light thing. I am aware, by the way, in case you were going to say, I'm aware that a bunch of protesters have started wearing those. I don't care. It has nothing to do with them. I just thought it was cool. And I refuse to be pushed around by a bunch of protesters. You know, when the Hong Kong riots were going on, you know what? I actually had people that would message me and say, hey, please stop selling, I think it was black T-shirts, because the Hong Kong protesters are wearing that. And, you know, it seems like you're supporting them. I'm like, no, I'm not going to change what I wear because of protesters. You know what I mean? So that thing behind me right here, I just thought it was cool. And, you know, I'm not going to let them change that. What about Tetris? Pretty good. I'm pretty good at it. All right. So you support Venezuela and Chinese governments but want to kick MLs off the internet. I don't think they're talking to me. MLs. That would be fantastic gaming, 90s based strategy games. You know what I was going to do? I swear to God, this is not a joke. I was thinking about doing a stream where I was like, better game than Cyberpunk 2077, and have like this awesome thumbnail, and then when people click it as me playing Master Magic. I swear to God, I was really going to do that. What do I think about the Confederate flag? That's too vague. I don't think about the Confederate flag. It represents a failed state, a breakaway State. Well, what do you want me to say? I don't care about it. I'm from California, dude. I'm not from Arkansas or wherever. Are you for Biden? No, I'm not for Biden. I'm just much less for Trump. Let me put it that way. Sorry, Nathan, wasn't talking to you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Cyberpunk 2021. Cyberpunk 1994. That's what I should call it. Do you like any anime stuff? There's plenty in Bilibili. Anime. God, I don't know. I liked that. What was it called? Animatrix. That was pretty good, but that's not Japanese. Hi, Nathan. What do you think about trending videos of people saying Jack Ma has been abducted by the Chinese government? I was thinking about doing a quick video about this. So maybe I'll just say this. On Twitter, somebody asked me, Nathan, what do you think about the Jack Ma news? Okay, let's take a look at that, actually. I'll go to my home. Maybe I can find it. Maybe it's too far back now, but somebody said, like, why don't you comment on the Jack Ma news? And this is my comment. What news? What are you talking about? The news that I saw was, as of yesterday, was a news agency saying, where's Jack Ma? That's not news. What that is somebody who works at a news agency who's supposed to be covering Jack Ma, and they don't have a story, so then they go, I mean, we don't even know where he is. Story. Right? That's not a story. Okay? To me, that's not a story. Saying you don't know where someone is isn't a story. Especially when sorry, my cat is really bothering me here. Especially when you have people coming out and saying, no, he's not missing. And the other interesting thing about this Jack Ma situation is nobody ever thinks about what it must be like to be this type of dude. You're this big, this rich, this famous, and you don't make a public appearance for 2 months, which I haven't researched, but I think that's what they said. And that alone becomes international news because people are so bored that they just create articles about you. Just imagine that. My God. Probably what happened is his deal was crushed, was stopped, and maybe he doesn't feel like doing a bunch of press conferences and having everybody ask him the same 10 million questions. Maybe he's spending his billions of dollars on some island somewhere doing God knows what, being depressed. Who knows? He's a human. So this reminds me of a lot of the reports about, so-and-so's missing. And then they go, oh, he's not missing. You see that a lot with North Korea. So-and-so's dead. Oh, whoops. Oh, turns out he wasn't dead. It's just this weird way to create a story when there isn't one, as far as I can see. And again, that's my default position of if there isn't evidence to something having happened, then that's not a story. Sorry, that's just you wondering out loud because you don't have a story. Simon says, agree to suppress Ant Alibaba to get it on track of what the whole country needs. This is a very interesting topic that I'm not especially. Sorry, my cat is very, very trying very hard to get on me. He's climbing up here. Sorry, hang on here. I'm sorry, everybody. I have to do this again and again. I have nobody here to help me with my cats. What was I saying? This is very weird because in the United States, you have almost the opposite situation, where you've got these corporations that are enormous and they control more and more of the government, it seems. You've got them literally censoring the president of the United States. To this day, like, this is still shocking to me that this can happen. And then in China, you have corporations that start to approach that level, and then the government goes, no, we're not doing that. Right? There may have been other motivations, but it's just an interesting difference. And this is what I mean when I say that in China, the government is more senior than the corporations. And in America, in many ways, the corporations are more senior. And if you want to convince me that one way is better than the other, the burden of evidence is on you. Right? It's not inherently obvious why one is better than the other. It's not obvious to me why Twitter should be allowed to block tweets from the United States government. That's not obvious to me. So, anyway, guys, appreciate the super chats. I guess I don't really have much else to say. It's nice to be with you guys. Thanks for watching. Sony. Love your videos telling the truth on China and Hong Kong. Thanks. Once again, I just tend to think about things from the point of view of my own culture and how we talk about things. I think this is why people get very confused about me. They make these weird accusations that seem bizarre to me. Because used to be hardcore pro-US, but thanks to YouTubers like you, Barrett, and Jayo, I got neutral point of view on China issue. Well, those two are not at all mutually exclusive, by the way. I'm pro-US. I want US to be doing well. I just don't want it to have to go out of its way to punish others in order to do well. Know what I mean? Nathan Rich, you need to read your super chats. Hugo, sorry. Did I miss you somehow? Let me go back here. If I can figure out how to do stuff. Did I miss you, buddy? I don't think so. I didn't. Hugo, I have read all of my I've read all my super chats. So, I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. If you want to use Twitter and all, you have to follow their rules. Let's not open that can of worms. Can you show us you having a trip around China in the future? The only time I have seen you outside is on the CGTN video. I have several videos, buddy. Lots of videos of me outside, especially having to do with COVID-19. Check the COVID-19 Beijing one. That's the first one that I did outside. And then I did several after that wandering around. So I do them outside. These days it's freezing. I mean, it is literally below freezing. Otherwise, I have no issue to do it outside. Here we go again. Jack Ma has been missing for 2 months. You know, I was missing for a month and a half, and I didn't get any articles from CNN talking about me. Maybe the guy isn't missing. Did you ever think about that? I mean, we'll see. But I doubt it. Please, can we have a video of you chatting over Hot Pot? Yes. All right, guys. Any more super chats before I go? Going once. Going twice. We all need to watch to see what's happening. Do not let everybody tell you how different this is than the Hong Kong situation. It really isn't that different, to be honest with you. They both are fighting for what they view as pro-democracy movements. Hot Pot live stream. Jack is my cousin. He is fine. Do you think the Trumps will be abandoned by American politicians? At this point, no, he will not be. They will not be, because there still will be a very large echo chamber of people who believe in what he did. Nathan, how can we access your COVID timeline? Link on Patreon doesn't work. What? Doesn't? I don't believe you. How dare you, Tali? I'm going to assume that you're lying first, and then if I'm proved wrong, I won't apologize. Okay? You know, the American way. Let's take a look. COVID timeline. View. Sorry, I know this is real exciting stuff. Hang on one second. Just got to check this little link here. Did I post the link? Well, let me just tell you this, Tali. I will post a link in Patreon for you. Okay? And I will make sure that it works first. All right. No more super chats. I'm out of here, everybody. Why, after living in China, you look younger than before? Is it the food or the diet? Why? It's the exercise. And this is just a better time of day for me. I'm not as exhausted as I normally am. Normally, I'm sure you guys can tell, I'm very low energy. But now I'm amped. Another person. Or is that you still? Looking in China, living in China, you look younger than before. Trying to win me over, huh? Butter me up for something. Your sub count has not changed for a very long time. This is very true. This is very true. I love the way you react to the missing of Jack Ma. Yeah, when I saw that, somebody saying, "What do you think of this story about Jack Ma?" And I said, "Oh my God, what story?" And I clicked it, and it was like, "Oh yeah, we haven't seen Jack Ma in a while." Like, yeah, okay. And if I were him, I would be, very upset in a hotel somewhere, going, "I don't want to talk to these stupid press." Blah 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 blah. These are people. They're not anything different than that. They're just people, and if shit goes wrong for him, he doesn't want to necessarily jump out and get into the limelight. Doesn't mean he's missing. That's not a story. Xargs. I hope that's a Linux reference. I watch your content to balance my views. Well, it feels like you're fighting the other side exclusively. It helps me come to a middle. Thoughts? Well, thanks. I guess. I don't know. I'm not really fighting any side other than, wouldn't it be nice if my own country and culture could try to leave other countries and cultures alone? And if we're going to criticize them for some reason, can we try to make it very strictly adhere to facts? That's it. That's really my point. I don't care if you like China. I don't even care if China is good. That's not very interesting to me. What's interesting is, if you're going to say that they're not good, can we just base that on facts, please? Can we not just, just make all this stuff up? Can we not lie about it? That's obnoxious to me. But I don't know what the other side to that is. But will China nominate Baked Alaska and the Buffalo Man that stormed Capitol Hill for the Confucius Peace Prize? That would be really funny. I gotta think about that for a second. If they did that, it would be so snarky. But it wouldn't really be, it wouldn't be that bad. You know what I mean? It would be kind of like a lighthearted way of poking back. But I don't think that, in general, I don't think governments should be playing those kinds of those games. But I agree in spirit that would be actually pretty hilarious. Which COVID-19 vaccine do I prefer? I prefer the one that's been out for 7 months here in China. They started by giving military personnel and so on. Oh, you're welcome, George. You know what? Honestly, when I think about doing live streams that are very long, one of the reasons that I don't do it is because, like, I just feel like I don't really have anything else to say after a while, you know? Like, now I'm just kind of like, well, all right, I guess I'm gonna chill out and play some more Master Magic and relax a little bit. Hey, XRX, is that a Linux reference, by the way? What is the riot for? Nothing? Well, they think that the votes essentially were fake. They basically think that there's a chance that Trump actually won, but that a bunch of different things happened, and therefore Biden is going to win, but not really win. He didn't really win. It's a conspiracy theory. It doesn't mean that it's false, but it does mean that it does seem quite complicated of a theory. We doing a Master of Magic stream now? I might do it. You know, the one thing, though, is if I do a Master of Magic stream, it's really going to throw people off. Arhel primarily. You said XArg's right, too, which says a lot. Yes, XArgs, let me share something with you that I often tell people online, but I never really tell them in person, which is that when I say that I like Linux, and I have a tattoo of Linux on my hand right here, right, when I have this, it's not because, like, I saw it installed one time or I heard it, you know. It's because I really understand it. And that's how I am with most things, right? When people meet me in person and they think that they know me and they think that I'm a guy with some big team behind me that does all the work and I don't do the research myself, and then they start asking me questions, and next thing that they know, we're in a 3-hour conversation about the Qing dynasty and everything that I thought could have happened differently, and how the emergence of laissez-faire capitalism after the mercantile capitalism in the 1830s down in South Guangzhou really was the beginning of the British Empire shifting towards this mode of direct imperialism into China, and how that affected the Chinese people, on and on and on and on. They start to go like, oh, so this is one of those guys that, like, he kind of speaks softly and carries a big stick. Like, he, like, says something about Linux or whatever, and then when you, like, ask him questions and ask him questions and ask him questions, you start to realize, like, oh, he knows more than I do about this. Like, he really gets it. Like, he was using Solaris zones and ZFS when they were new, right? He's like, oh, okay, I get it now. He knows what Sunfire systems are. Oh, okay, you know, this type of thing. Now, it's not me with everything, but with some things, I really get them. Like you said, Fedora. Okay, I remember when Fedora was downstream of Arhel, and then they switched it, so Fedora is upstream of Arhel. And if you don't know what that means, it has to do with the dev cycle. Let me then some people install it for general use. Understanding kernels, understanding firmware, TCP stack, memory addressing, etc. Yes, well, I started with Gen 2 Linux back when you started from stage 2 install, so I did stage 2, stage 3, and so on. Went through the handbook, took like a week to get it up to KDE, and then did it all over again. ButterFS for you. Nathan Rich, are you a Gentoo man? Well, I just said I was. I was on Gentoo for quite a long time. Then I did LFS, and then I was doing Arch Linux, and like this guy Gilgamesh of Babylonia, nothing beats sudo rmrf / except that usually won't do anything, by the way, especially in user-friendly types of Linux OSs. Xargs, you heard about CentOS? Have I heard about CentOS? I used to build custom drivers for CentOS back when we were on CentOS 4. Yes, I've heard of it. Yes, again, very, very deep into Linux for a very, very long time. Unix as well. Unix has some really interesting aspects of it. Although these days I have the boring Windows machine, but I do run Cygwin, obviously. What's your favorite Linux distro? CentOS, obviously. But that's because I've worked in so many small, medium, large corporations, and you always find a one-off. Oh, we've got Steve here, and he loves Gentoo, so all our stuff runs on Gentoo. All right, then you got to deal with portage and all this, merging everything. And then you've got Ubuntu now, as you know, everybody likes to go into Ubuntu. And then you've got some guy, some crusty guy somewhere who thinks that Debian's the way to go. But forget all those people. Add them all together, even OpenSlash or OpenSUSE. Put them all together, it's like 0.001% of the CentOS installs in the world. I mean, it's nothing else even close. CentOS 8 EOL 2021, then gone, replaced with CentOS Stream as an upstream. Rocky Linux is coming, though. All right. Well, see, this is what happens. Now you got people going, when are we getting back to politics? Sorry, guys. I know Linux is very boring. Have you used Emacs or GNU? Well, GNU is not really a thing that you use in that way. And I don't use Emacs. I think people that use Emacs are nerds. If you don't use Vim, okay, you're too nerdy for me. You might as well be using, what's that keyboard? I always get it confused with Dvorak from Mortal Kombat 11. Kevorkian, you know what I'm talking about. Dr. Kevorkian. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm not talking about politics anymore. I am going to end the stream soon. So if you don't want to hear about very boring stuff like Linux, etc., then adios. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching. I will be taking super chats. I will be chatting here for a little bit. Do not, guys. Thank you, Xargs. Don't use Nano. And that's one of the things when I was doing the Gentoo handbook back about, God, this was about, more than 15 years ago or something, a very long time ago. I remember that they have you use Nano, at least at that time. And I remember after I used it, I was, what the hell is this? Ugh. And once I got into Vim, I was like, okay, forget this stupid Nano thing. It's very confusing, ugly little thing. As a CS guy, I hate dealing with systems shite. Well, fair enough. But what are you doing? Programming? I mean, let me tell you something about programming. Contrary to the vast amounts of conspiracy theories about me, I have led very large teams of programmers. And the very best Python programmers, C++ programmers out there, the best, all have a few things in common. And one of the things that they have in common is they understand a bit more outside of the realm of pure programming. Because when you're only dealing within the libraries, there's a certain level of things that you can't really get. And you actually have to break out of that and study a bit about how drivers work and how various file systems work and how Linux actually works and what is a mount and how is this, what's a bind mount, and what is locking on NFS share, and how is this really working? Then you can start to really manifest your best programming ability. So if you're a programmer, Dendrick, then you may hate system stuff. You don't have to learn all of it. You don't have to know about HA design and what a load balancer is, but you do need to have some level of exposure outside of just the coding, even if you're a PHP programmer, to be honest with you. My lag. I think I'm back. Recommend Nathan to hold another tech session with all you tech guys. Sorry, I know this is very boring. All right, guys. Well, PHP is doomed. JS, Python rocks. Okay. Bufferville. All right, I'm not going to make you guys suffer through the lag. Thank you, everybody, for your super chats and views. Keep an eye on what's going on with this whole political situation. I hope that my country does better. I really do. And don't listen to the stupid haters that don't have brain cells left. Not everybody in the world is just owned and they're all puppets and all telling you whatever because of some damn, conspiracy. Sometimes there are people in the world who just look at their country and go, maybe we shouldn't be like assaulting other countries. I don't even think that's like a controversial view. Well, I'm a network architecture and security guy, so I can't just look at pure programming. Network architect and security guy, great. Well, then you don't really have to think about systems, right?